Daily Q, back up in this. What up? Your boy Drawn Night Nurse. Shout out to all my star kids out there, Quasar Colt, Yam Yams, and everybody out there that's being beautiful and great and having a great week. Hopefully, you're having a great, beautiful, productive, goal oriented week, and you're not out there on some fuck shit. Hopefully, I don't get demonetized on YouTube for that. But that's just how I'm feeling this morning. I'm feeling live. But we're gonna go ahead and go into this because I like to keep these daily cues short. I got stuff to do, things to see, people to connect with, money to make, all that stuff. I want to talk about Quantum Leap. They recently just rebooted Quantum Leap, and I don't think, like, I'm super freaking nervous about this show. Quantum Leap probably for me is top. If I had to list like top 10 most influential shows for me, I would say Quantum Leap is 100% on that list. As a child, I used to watch Quantum Leap all the time with my mom. That show was very like a comfort show for me, especially like after my father died. That show was like really has a very personal spot in my heart. And so when I hear, well, first of all, let me say that I've been wanting not necessarily a reboot of Quantum Leap, more so a continuation of Quantum Leap for ever since it ended, because it ended basically on a cliffhanger. A lot of the questions weren't answered on the show. Well, I mean, some of the questions were, but not all the questions were answered in the show. It ended like with a very ambiguous ending. And it's one of those shows where you could totally 100% get the original cast and continue this show, and it would be just as fire from that point on, right? They can totally do that. But I do believe Al died recently, like super recently. I might be wrong about that. I should probably check that before I'm out here saying that dude died. But he's just not around. I don't know what that means, but he isn't involved in this. Neither is Scott Bakula. So, studios doing what studios do, they're like, all right, bet we're gonna go ahead and reboot this. We'll get an Asian dude to play the main role, and we're gonna change Al to his love interest that he apparently forgot. I believe that's the premise of the show, is that they were like fiancés or something like that, and then like he falls into the quantum leap machine for some reason, and then as he's leaping through all these different worlds, his fiancée is actually the one who guides him through these different versions of him, but he doesn't remember her as the fiance, which is an interesting premise. I'm not even gonna front. Like, I'm not even mad at that premise. But, my spider sense still tingles on this, because I think that without Scott Bakula being involved and the original cast being involved, it's essentially a reboot. They're trying to say that it's not a reboot. Like, they're trying to say that it's a continuation of the same story. And like I said, I haven't watched a single episode yet, and I plan on watching this show. I'm just super hella duper wildly insanely nervous about how this will play out. And I think my trust issues stem from Why the Last Man, because Why the Last Man burned me. It burned me bad, man. That's probably like one of the most disappointing things that have ever happened to me in my life. Like, and I'm not even fronting on this. Like, I've been through some shit, but the Why the Last Man show was one of the most disappointing things that has ever happened to me in my life. And if you know me personally, and if you ever asked me the question, which is a question you probably would never ask me, but if it's like, if I ever wanted a comic to TV or movie adaptation, I was clamoring and asking and pushing, and I didn't do a petition or anything like that. But everybody, if you ask me that question, my answer would be Why the Last Man. Why the Last Man is one of my favorite comic series of all time. It's like top 5 for me, easily. The comic series is fire. Pure, unadulterated fire. It's an amazing comic book, front to back. And so when I read Ride the Last Man, I think I was mid 20s when I read that, and I'm gonna drop when I read it. Ever since I read that, I was like, this needs to be a TV show. And I was following this story for ever since that I read that comic, when they were announcing that they were gonna do a version with Brad Pitt and Alicia Keys, and that didn't work out. And then there was a version that was like in the works at some point to do a movie, and that didn't work out. And then they announced the FX show, and I'm like, what? They're doing an FX show? That's actually kind of hot. You know what I'm saying? And then I saw the trailer at the Super Bowl, and I was like, oh my God, it's actually coming. Oh my God. And I was hyping it to my wife, and I was like, man, this is going to be so good. If they do this right, this is going to be one of the best TV shows of our time. Oh my God, oh my God. Hyping it, hype, 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 hype. And then me and my wife sat down and watched that pilot, and I was just like, and I tried hard. Like, I was trying so hard to like the show. But then I realized immediately that they had changed the story too much, and that they did too much to make it like less about the main character. At least in the pilot, it doesn't focus on the main character. It focuses on Diane Lane, because they have Diane Lane in the show, and that's probably where most of their budget went. And so Diane Lane is like gets more screen time than Yorick's character, and it really there's a lot of issues. Oh God, that show disappointed me so much. The point is that because of the massive disappointment, like, I knew when I watched the pilot, I was like, the show is going to get canceled. It's not going to make it through the season. I knew this. I was like, fuck. Holy crap. And sure enough, it didn't make it past episode 4. I think they finished the season, but they announced that it was going to be canceled after episode 4. And now the creators are trying to shop a home, and it's like, I don't even want that, bro. Ugh, gross. So after that long ass example, I look at this Quantum Leap situation, and I'm like, man, dude, oh my God, I'm already getting the Why the Last Man vibes. My spider senses are tingling. I'm afraid to watch this show. Y'all gonna ruin it. Y'all gonna ruin the show, and then they're not gonna touch it again for another decade and a half. I'm gonna have to write Quantum Leap and bring back Scott Bakula from the dead. Like, I'm just afraid, man. And like, they be doing this too much, man, with these reboots. There are so many creators out there with original ideas and original storytelling. Not only that, there's also dudes out there who are capable of putting together better stories. And there's too much pandering and politics and studio influence that just makes shit terrible. I'm looking at this Fantastic Four situation, and part of me is like, all right, that's cool, because I'm a aspiring writer and dude who wants to be in Hollywood, right? And I think about the fact that the MCU literally plucked these two dudes out of nowhere. I have no idea who these dudes are. You look at their IMDb page, they don't even have like anything hot. But something in Feige's soul, in his heart, had him like, damn, these are the ones that are gonna write the Fantastic Four movie, and so they did that. And it's crazy because it's like, word. Let's give one of the most anticipated movies of the year of our time to these random dudes. There's something cool about that a little bit, but at the same time it's super risky, right? You want seasoned writers, and I don't even know who wrote Why the Last Man. I don't even know who wrote Quantum Leap, but the vibe is just off. They gotta fix that. Anyways, let's get to the motivation side of things. Motivation, yeah. All right, so what did I write? I think I wrote some clever stuff. I think I said pivot points. Yeah, I want to talk about pivot points. Understanding the pivot points of your career. And this is more financial based than anything else, because I think that if your passion is where your passion wants to be at, you should always be pursuing that, if that makes any sense the way I explain that. Meaning that if you're out here wanting to be a rapper and that's where your heart's at, and you want to rap until you're 45 or 50 or 60, then do that. That's beautiful. I think that you should do that, and you should pursue that to the utmost career. But what you have to understand too is that you also have to make money to survive and feed your family and feed yourself and pay your bills and pay your rent. And so you have to understand that there's pivot points. And this is part of the reason why I even became a multimedia artist to begin with, because of the fact that I can go and rap, right, and make some money and put all this effort into the shows. But then I also realized that there are other artists out there who need stuff, right? And so providing those resources for people will cover your expenses at the very least, and maybe get you a profit. So, the example that I give here real quick is like if you know artists need photos. I think photos and video are probably the easiest way for artists to make money on the side. The only thing that an artist really needs in order to start shooting photos or videos is a camera. And it doesn't even have to be a flashy camera. It just has to be a decent camera. And hell, if you're nice, you could shoot on your iPhone. The new iPhones and these new Samsungs 4000s or whatever, they got crazy sensors. Now, you're not going to have the depth of field and the maybe not as much control over things like f-stop and ISO and stuff like that. But it's a good place to start, yo. You can take an iPhone and shoot some heat, shoot some fire. You know what I'm saying? So I've seen it time and time again. So I think about that a lot, where it's like, especially if you feel like you have an eye for things like that, or if you're out here already making your own artwork for your album covers, because that's something that you have to do to release music, right? Is put your album out, or you have to make artwork for your album covers. And oftentimes, if you're not hiring someone to do it, you're probably doing it yourself. And you might be nice with it. You might have figured out Photoshop and figured out how to like get that shit popping, right? So if that's the case, then what you do is you figure out how to pivot from that, right? How do you put yourself in a situation where you can use your skill sets to make yourself a bag and also expand your network? Because if these artists around you are out here trying to be successful too, and they're out here trying to grind in the same way that you are, then what's going to end up happening is that you will end up having a network of not only people to work with, but also a network of money. Because you should be putting money back into these artists' pockets anyways, and they should be putting money back into yours. That's how community works, right? If so-and-so needs recording services, I don't think I've recorded the artists at my house since the Meteor Shower run. When I really think about that, I don't think that was like in 2018. And I might be wrong about that. Like, I'm thinking really hard on that, but I really don't think I've recorded an artist at my house since then, because I found better people to do it in an environment that is more pleasing and more comfortable for them, right? Plus, I don't even have all the high-tech gear. I don't have all the fancy Pro Tool plugins and microphones and stuff. I just have what I have, right? And so oftentimes when people come to me and say, hey, I need recording services, I always say, go hit up my man Boom Boom, Fonz, or whoever. Do the blah blah. I'm saying whoever name comes out of my mouth at that time. Mostly it's Fonz. But do the bop bop, right? Do the bop bop gets a fucking shout out because whatever is going on at that time. But I'm not necessarily trying to take the bag. I'm trying to help him out and pivot those people to him. And then you let them know, like, hey, I'm going to send some people your way, yada, yada, yada. That helps you get a relationship with these people that will help you strengthen your community, right? A lot of times people put money into stuff and they don't have a plan on how to get the money back out. And a lot of times that comes down to having a very narrow skill set. You can only do one or two things. And so since you can only do one or two things that everybody else can do, how you make money off of that, right? So I always encourage people to learn more. Watch some YouTube videos, read some articles, expand your mind, find new interests, and try to expand upon ways you can monetize those. And it's not even necessarily about monetization, it's mostly about having that skill set. Because at the end of the day, bartering is still a thing. You can still barter things until the end of time. My last album, The Setting Sun, was entirely bartered and then paid for any studio time for The Setting Sun. I bartered a deal with my services and my talent set. I offered that to Fonz and I said, hey, I will do this for you if you do this for me. I know you need this, and this. I got this, and this. You got that, and that. I need that, and that. So let's boom, 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 boom. It's a math problem. Solve it. Equates to results, essentially. And so when I think about these things, like, oftentimes I see artists be like, oh, I don't have enough money to do this, right? Or like, oh, I wish I had a bunch of money. And it's like, no, what you need is to expand your skill sets. Because if you expand your skill sets, then you can create revenue streams for you to get money to do whatever you need to do. Or you can barter your skill sets in order to put yourself in a position to get money, right? And that's what I've been doing damn near my entire career. I rarely pay. Well, I've been paying for a lot more stuff now because I'm paying for services outside of my usual network. But the idea is that I don't really pay for shit because I could do so much shit. Now, don't get me wrong. I do pay for shit. I rent studios and I do this and that and equipment when I need to and et cetera, so forth. And I pay out the homies when I need to, et cetera, so forth. But when it comes to like usual transactions, unless the money makes sense, I could just trade for it. I could be like, bro, I'll give you this, this, and this if you give me this, that, and that. Especially if it's something and that is something that I need in my situation. So in order to have more options on the that, and that, you gotta diversify your situation to where you can get more options. Simple trade, simple math. It's all right there for you. I'm gonna stop right there. I appreciate you guys watching the Daily Q. If you're watching this video on Facebook, that's tight. But usually I'm focusing my YouTube family. Shout out to my people on YouTube. Follow, like, if you're in the algorithm, watching me talk random stuff about random news and random motivation stuff. I'm Jerron Eitner. One love to my star kids. We will catch you on the flip side. Peace. Cuckoo. Oh yeah, go to my other channel. I have I'm gonna put a link in the comments. I got a new channel. It's not a new channel, but I have my other channel. I've been dropping mad content over there on my other channel. Like thought videos. I just dropped a video about pussy chips. It's wild over there. Go check it out. Peace. See you later.